And welcome back to Teaching Elixir. Pretty sure it's called that now. We are going to be doing control structures. So these are the videos where I spent some time with a buddy of mine and he learns Elixir via Elixir School. So this is not his first time learning programming. He knows a number of programming languages and he's definitely done functional programming before as well. So it's a lot of us being silly and a lot of picking up the basics of Elixir, hopefully, and diving into deeper holes and weird topics along the way. Cool. So control structures, what does that tell you?
I don't know. I like them. Yeah. And I think the lack of control structures tells me more. But I see that we have a case here. So
Yeah,
let's go
something.
ahead.
Yeah, something. If I just quickly scroll past, I think I don't remember which ones are macros and not. I think case and cond are probably the only actual control structures implemented sort of natively. And then, so if and unless are definitely macros, not language
Cool.
constructs, which
They
is,
they look like functions if I look at the description. Chances are you've encountered if/to before.
yeah, so they are macros, and macros are also sort of referenced with their arity. So
Got it.
and
Oh,
they are block style macros, I think it's called. So they end with a do, and they have a do end for gating sort of
they do indeed.
their contents. So if we look at the first example, if string valid do valid string,
Good stuff.
typical if statement, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do that all the time.
yeah. And then there's unless, which I have never used in my life, I think. Um,
Yeah. I think that's because you're not a Ruby nor a Perl programmer.
yeah, I'm more prone to going if not.
Yeah.
Though
I,
I guess that does mean I need to use parentheses whenever there's multiple multiple Boolean things. So
yeah. I can see the use for unless, but I'm a
for me, it
have
just turns
done
out to be one more word to
yeah.
know. But honestly, yeah, it does have a good amount of clarity to it, I guess.
Yep. Oh well.
Especially if so, I don't think I would use it for control flow, where I sort of need logic in either branch. But if I need to check a negative and then sort of throw or like raise or just log something,
Yeah.
then that would make for a very nice terse statement.
Yep.
All right. But these are probably implemented with case
Oh yeah.
under the hood. So if it's necessary to match against multiple patterns, we can use case. Yeah.
Mm.
So this is a little bit of a convoluted example because if we pass in the OK hello world tuple into a case statement, that gives us and then we match for OK result, error, and underscore.
Yeah.
We will definitely get the first one because it's like this is a literal.
Yep. Nothing exciting can happen there.
Yeah, but it sort of makes sense at least.
Yep.
So the way I always thought about case statements getting started with them was definitely just switch the switch statement from more normal languages, traditional PHP and friends. Doesn't exist in Python, switch statement.
Yeah, and it always bothers me.
Yeah, it's super annoying because you have to re-implement it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you need a switch statement.
Exactly. So either you build those horrible if-elif trees, or put everything in a map, and then have to be careful about, do I want this evaluated now or later? And it's usually the other one.
Yeah.
Regardless of what's chosen. So yeah, and I see the default pattern. It's one of my favorite patterns, the underscore variable.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think we will cover this when we talked about pattern matching. That underscore is, I don't care about this variable.
Yeah. Give me
I want to match anything, and I don't care about the contents of it. So if you wanted to match an error tuple that had a error, but you don't actually care what the error is, you would add an underscore.
Cool.
There.
Could we match on a variable that we keep? So, for instance, if we get just put an E there or something, and then we can.
That's what they're doing in results in the OK.
Yeah,
result.
but let's say that we, in a more dynamic example, like this.
Okay.
Or this, or this.
Yeah.
And then how do I turn something into a string?
Inspect.
Okay. So like that. How do I concatenate something to a string?
Less than, greater than.
Yeah. Okay. So because if we get something from the internet, but on the other hand, then maybe we shouldn't catch it at all and let it crash. How do you do that?
That's certainly an option. We can get into that, but let's reevaluate this where it actually hits your code path.
Yeah. But I could either, let's say in a more realistic example, I could either put it in the logs here, just log it, and hopefully someone sees it eventually, or raise some kind of alarm which sends an SMS or something.
Yeah.
Or I could just let it crash.
Yeah, so let's investigate the let it crash option. Just clean this up a little bit so we're back to normal. I'm gonna use this later. Damn it.
Yeah, that always bothers me. All code.
So let's next example.
Yes. Okay, so this raises an error. Case clause error, no case. Okay, no case clause matching. Even.
Yeah, because we're passing even and it only matches for odd.
Yeah.
So then it will crash.
Yeah, that's actually kind of useful error message. So
yeah. So this is something I would use in cases where if there's it's very common that I would match for OK tuple and error tuple.
Yep.
But I would not match for sort of if something just returns error or if it returns nil or something, because it shouldn't. And if it does, I might as well just let it throw. I think that's from Frozen, right? Let it throw, let it throw.
Yeah, it's the Erling the movie Frozen version.
Perfect.
Yep.
Yeah. So if you don't handle it, it will throw with a case clause error.
Yes.
And that's a perfectly fine way of implementing some let it crash. Now, in many cases, it's nicer to have a sort of proper defined exception if you expect a lot of failures, but you can write, in a sense, defensively in this way, where by defensively I mean aggressively make it crash when things are bad.
Yep.
Which can be a good strategy. It's not, so that's the thing you shouldn't use for all your code paths. Some you actually want to handle everything gracefully, but for some you can certainly go wild and
if I do user input validation, for instance, maybe I want to give some good error messages.
Yeah.
Although I do wonder if people subscribe to the let it crash philosophy when they're writing user validation. This field is wrong.
Yeah, crash the process. That's helpful.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so that's case statements. Anything unfamiliar there?
Nah, it's another syntax. It's kind of nice.
That's good. Yeah. It took me a little bit to get used to case statements, especially they're very powerful and it's easy to forget how much work you can do in them.
Yep.
So we can go back up to the OK Hello World example here.
Let's see. Yeah, there it is.
And we could actually do that match.
Yeah. That's some good stuff.
Yeah, and then like if you actually need the whole thing as well, you can always do like grab the whole, like bind the whole of the match as well to keep that around. So yeah.
Does it matter which where you put the equal sign?
I believe so.
So
yeah,
you can't
it
put
does.
it to the left of the.
Yeah, what is it with wanting to put the equal sign on either side? Is this
Because it's a binary operator. You should be able to put it anywhere. Or you should be able to put it between two things that are potentially equal, or that you say are equal. Right? It's like it shouldn't matter which side of the plus operator you put stuff.
Yeah, I don't think that's allowed.
Okay.
I think it matches
Challenge
in a direction.
accepted. Huh. Okay.
Well, that's not a string.
No, that's not a string. Huh.
I guess. Well, binding like
Exciting.
that would work. Because that doesn't even impose anything. Yeah,
Okay.
I guess maybe it works the way you want it to. I just
Well-
have never seen the need. I tend to have the specific match on the left hand side and the less specific stuff on the right hand side.
Yeah, I guess my kind of shenanigans would have been caught in a code review with someone saying your code looks weird.
Stop being weird.
Never.
Yeah. All right. Next steps. So, since case relies on pattern matching, all the same rules and restrictions apply. If you intend to match against existing variables, you must use the pin operator.
Where are we now? You jumped
Next
down.
section.
Cont.
No,
Yes.
not section in
Not
that
that
way.
section.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Unevaluated code. Pi.
Oh, you're at pi. Okay, got it. Thank you.
So
Pi.
So yeah, matching against an existing variable, you use the pin operator.
Oh. Oh. Why would you want to do that?
So let's say we have, oh, that's not what I was trying to do. Well, let's say we have, we're getting this value as a return from a function.
Yeah.
And we want to check if it exactly matches a particular variable.
Okay.
And we have that value bound somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So yeah, so if you don't do the
Then it just binds to. If you don't have the pin
yeah,
operator, it will just bind.
yeah.
That's why
So
this example is a little bit funny in that way, because it uses both the binding and the
yeah,
and the pin.
I can see the troll face watermark in the background.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool, though.
And then guard clauses.
Yes.
This is very useful.
Now we're getting into the good stuff.
So you can throw a when at the end of these kinds of pattern matches. You can do this for function heads and you can do it for cases.
Yep.
And then you can look at anything you've bound in the pattern and go, is this really this? So in this case, we're checking the value. Is it greater than?
Yep.
But you can also use, there's a number of guard clause functions. So is nil, is binary, is list, is map, for example.
Cool. So how do you use them?
So let's say, since it will grab the first matching case, we can go, we'll match anything when is tuple top. It's doing a little bit of funny stuff with my typing. And let's inspect the top.
Yep.
That's not what I was trying to do.
It looks like you're using Vim.
I'm not.
You're not. Everything just happening.
Yeah, so it's hitting our code path now.
Yep.
But if we go is nil, it's not.
Yep.
And since this is a variable binding, we're not pattern matching at all in this. We're saying anything.
Yep.
But then we're putting guards on it.
Yeah, and if that guard isn't true, the pattern fails.
Yeah,
or
and then it will match.
Fails, and
then we'll attempt to match the next thing.
Yeah. Cool.
You can do when not in is nil as well. And if you have so I think this only works with a compile time constant when if you have like an item in a list that you want to check for.
Yep.
You can do top in my list, sort of. And the at here is for a module attribute, so that's sort of a compile time constant.
Yep.
You might, I don't think you can do it with a non-literal compile time constant list. So, but essentially you can say, oh, these are the strings we allow, or these strings are disallowed, and that you could do when not in list or when in list, which is very useful.
Yep.
So,
oh, I gotta try something silly.
Yep.
Yes. Do 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 do. Haha. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yep.
So
I'm
cond,
happy.
this one I use much less often, but it's still very useful.
Oh, it's one of the fancy ones.
Yeah, so this one is it's essentially an if statement that just keeps going.
Yeah.
So it will grab. You see that you don't pass anything into the statement. It's not like cond variable do. It's just cond do, and then you state a bunch of conditions. And if it will use the first one that evaluates to true.
Yep.
And it's not as commonly used as one might expect, because you can do so much of this with case statements, and if you don't have more than 2 clauses, you'll likely use an if, because that's more typical.
Yep.
I've totally used case for if statements, like just case true false, because I find the syntax better.
Yeah, and you can put the stuff you're interested in the first, in the case expression, first one, and then you can pattern match out the things you're even more interested in.
Yeah, but cond definitely has its uses, and if you need a catch-all, use it. Just give it the boolean true, which is example.
Yeah.
Next example.
Cool.
So, yeah, useful.
Yeah.
With this one is a little bit of an odd one in my book.
Is this the infamous with?
It might be infamous. I know there's been a lot of discussion around sort of what is it called? Railroad-oriented programming and piping and things. Because pipes, like typically you shouldn't use pipes with anything that that will repeatedly give okay error tuples.
Mm-hmm.
And you should probably not use pipes if you need to be able to short circuit them quickly.
Yeah.
Because they just pass things on. They don't actually evaluate whether things are going well.
Yep.
So with can handle that case instead, where a with can have multiple clauses, and it will only keep evaluating as long as it keeps matching.
Yes.
So this first user, they do a map fetch, which will return an OK tuple if it succeeds. And then it will go to map fetch the last name, and then it will perform the do clause and have those matches ready.
Yes.
In the event that an expression fails to match, the non-matching value will be returned. So whatever errors, for example, if these are returning error tuples, you would just pass them on outside of this with statement. Which this allows you to code for the happy path pretty well.
Yep.
And yeah, so here's some code that probably will not compile because we don't have Guardian or repos or anything.
Indeed.
But this essentially is an example of nested case statements.
Yeah.
And how those can be refactored with.
Yep.
And that's neat. And then in Elixir 1.3, with statements support else. And this is super useful, but also I just recently read a post about how if you have multiple else statements in your with, you're probably doing it wrong.
Okay. What? Let's see.
Okay, so if any of the happy path matches fail, they will go into the else.
If any, so not all.
The first one that fails will go into the else.
Okay.
And then you have already returned early, so to speak. But that means you can handle. So I did one of these with multiple else statements in a thing where I was like reading a file from disk and then parsing it as JSON, and each of these operations could fail, and each of them would fail with their own error set.
Yep.
And then I could just match the errors and use that to convert to my own errors.
Yep.
So it can definitely be useful to have multiple error else's, but I think there's also the argument that the functions you're calling should probably be have the right shape of errors to pass on. So maybe you want to wrap things rather than have a huge with else statement.
Yeah.
Especially the else part, because that turns into a lot of sort of error management.
Yep.
But it's very nice to have an else statement, because you can at least, like, okay, always log the error before returning it.
That's true.
So it's pretty neat.
Yes.
Have you seen something like with in other FP languages?
No, I usually use the bind operator, but that's more like pipe operator with more stuff. Those are all highly technical expressions.
All right.
So I think we should take a look at witchcraft someday.
Oh yeah, actually, you trying to explain witchcraft to me would probably be a good one. I absolutely have bounced off of that library a few times, and I find it super interesting. If for no other reason than just being able to write a project where at the beginning of a module you say use witchcraft.
Yes, that's worth it. That
very
small
worth
part
it.
makes it worth it.
Okay, but I guess that was control structures.
Nice.
Thanks for watching. Bye.